except for me or one other or anybody else. Like, don't end the campaign on one person's behalf.
Oh no, not end the campaign. No, like take a break and get our schedules figured out, kind of thing. Like 2-3 week break, we can do that.
I think the big thing for me right now is that, so like, I have a lot of like major family events constantly coming about, and because we're Jews, like Friday, like we all get together on the weekends. So like, that's the big thing. So that's where a big part of it's coming from my perspective. So, yeah. And that's the thing where it's because it's like, on the one hand, you know, it's like, you know, it's my family or whatever, but also at the same time, it's not like work related or like major life, but it is my family.
Yeah, but it's your family, which is the most important thing.
Exactly.
I've not yet told my workplace to go screw, but there have been a couple of instances where the dude who's in charge of overtime comes up to me and goes, "Hey, do you want to work Friday?" And I go, "No." And he's like, "Why not? It's free money." I'm like, "Because I do family stuff on the weekend, and you can't make
Also, it's by definition not free money. You're exchanging labor for you're exchanging labor for goods. That's by definition not free money.
True. I understand that, but because I work third shift, it's basically free money.
Gotcha.
It is basically free money because you don't do anything on the weekend.
Fair enough.
You stand around and you sweep.
Correction. You don't do anything on the weekend. I do usually have to work. However, all of the hours that I'm currently working are hours that I'm going to be awake anyway, and nobody else is ever awake, so I'm not losing anything by working those hours. But anyway.
Right now, I'm just like looking for work, and I'm like bartending on the side. So
that's fair.
Yeah.
May I suggest Amazon?
Bartending.
There is no circumstance in which I would actively choose to work for Amazon.
Yeah, that's fair.
Especially
we love
because
but
yeah, well, first off, it's not the line of work that I went to school for, and like right now I'm looking for legal work, but nothing's hitting at the moment. And Amazon would be something more. Because I'm looking for something permanent in the legal field. But right now, I'm just doing like temp work.
I mean, if you're looking for something semi-temp, like maybe like dip a year into it, I would suggest Amazon because it's just a bunch of money.
Right.
So.
It's just not.
It's not ideal.
I've definitely considered it. It's just not ideal for my purposes.
Fair enough.
Because right now I'm looking to actually. So I'm in a nebulous state right now because I took the bar exam, but I don't have my results back yet. So a lot of places are like either like a lot of places are just like don't come like apply again when you've passed. Because some places will hire you regardless, but a lot of the time they're just like, nah, like come back later.
Yeah. So how does that actually work? If you need to pass the bar exam to practice law, what do you do if they hire you when you haven't passed?
So you can still function with certain legal duties because as long as you have your JD, you are a lawyer, but not an attorney. Now, depending on what you do, you theoretically don't need to even have taken the bar. An attorney means that you can represent somebody in court. Now, most places want you to be an attorney even if you don't plan on going to court. So they'll say like you still need to pass the bar exam. So I can still do data work, but I would have to be doing it under the supervision of an attorney. Similar to how a physician's assistant can do a lot of the practices of an actual doctor, but still needs to be under a doctor and like have everything approved by them.
So until you pass your bar, you're basically an RN, but for legal things.
Basically. And a notable thing about it is that So any work that I do has to be looked over by an attorney. So what that means is that for a lot of places, they're like, we don't want to have to do that for every single piece of work you do, because like we don't always have time to like look for one person look over everything, and that costs more in billable hours. So like they don't want to have to deal with having to be basically they don't want to have to like constantly looking over your work.
They don't want to
Waste of
babysit
time
you.
exactly. Because even if you're extremely competent and you do the work perfectly every time, there's always somebody who has to look at your work.
Yeah.
Or like supervise you, and they don't want to have to deal with that. So they'll hire you with the expectation that you're going to eventually pass. And if like you take it like 3 times and everyone sets their own policy, but if you keep failing it, they can just be like, all right, you clearly like either you're not cut out for it or you don't care enough. We're letting you go.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, and that's why a lot of people are just like, fuck this, I just want to pass the first time and not have to deal with this anymore.
This is
And
what, your first time taking it? Second? What's
first?
Ah.
And I still have another month or so before I hear about my results. It could be anywhere from like next week to a month. Because
Yep.
it's never
Whenever
consistent.
they get to you, basically.
They don't release it until everyone's been graded, but it takes a while to grade them because there's a written portion that needs to be looked over by a volunteer attorney, essentially.
Okay.
It's a really overly complicated process. Not to mention that the bar, much like a lot of standardized testing, is rooted in really fucked up racist like motivations.
Yeah.
Because there's a time where a lawyer didn't need any certification. Well, I think that might be a bit too lax. There was a time where like a lawyer was just a profession. You studied the law. You you stood as a representative. And that's what you could do. And then a bunch of black people started representing themselves and their fellow minorities in court, and that freaked out the old white people in charge.
Correct.
So what if? And as a result, like that's why also, by the way, that's the same. It's like the same story with the SATs, with the ACTs.
Yep.
Lots of standardized tests come from that same kind of motivation.
We don't want them filthy other people getting all up in our business.
Yeah.
Also, Mike, are you also waiting on the results back from the thing that will determine the course of the next few years of your life?
Yes, still.
OMG Samesies!
Are you waiting on what for your
PhD
for
application.
your PhD? Yeah. Oh, just the application?
Yeah. Bro,
Oh,
everyone I know has gotten their applications in like months earlier. My school is slacking.
Oh yeah. And that's the thing. It's like you're in this like weird nebulous state of just like waiting. So it's like, so can I progress to the next stage of my professional career, or am I stuck here?
Am I looking for a job, or am I looking for a professor?
Exactly.
Because I've got a meeting tomorrow with one of the professors that I'm thinking of doing research with. I'm like, I want to be able to tell him, hey, bro, I'm not going to be a PhD student. Never mind.
Yeah, that exact. Yeah, you understand. You understand. It's this awkward. I mean, a lot of careers are like this, where like.
Hey, buddy, sorry, I'm not a lawyer. Actually, I'm not a lawyer. I can't take that job.
Well, so a lot of the places are like, are you are you licensed to practice? And like, it'll just be a yes or no, and I'm like,
no.
Technically,
what I do
yes,
is,
but actually, no.
Yeah. So I've been putting down yes on job applications, but I put it in like there's like, is there anything else you'd like to add? And I write, I don't actually know yet. Please be nice.
Yeah. And that's valid. They all work in the same field as you. They probably know.
Which, I mean, yeah, that's first off, that is nothing new in the field. It's just like, I know that for every person that's applying to the job, one person is going to say, yes, I am barred. And they're just like, okay, we'll just take him instead. We're not waiting for you.
We take as a man that has the license.
Yep.
This
C'est
man
la
has
vie.
a license to law, effectively.
Yeah. And
Now,
you're just like,
once you pass the
you're
bar,
Schrodinger's lawyer.
oh god, once you pass the bar, you
No,
don't
no,
have
no.
to take it again, right?
So, that all depends.
Oh,
Mike, real
So,
quick.
yeah,
You are not Schrodinger's lawyer. You are Schrodinger's attorney.
there you go. That's correct, because I am a lawyer. I'm not an attorney.
Yes.
That I know. Yet. I don't know. That's the crux of this whole thing. I don't know.
You
But-
might be. We don't know yet. We haven't collapsed the waveform. Anyway, that's a question. Sorry.
Well, just in regard to whether or not I have to take it if I've passed. That depends on what I do with it. So, if I pass, I've taken what's called the UBE, Universal Bar Exam, which 35 states have accepted. What that means is that instead of having to take a state-specific bar or a bar that they accept, usually by a neighboring state, what you can do now is you can transfer your score over to that state's bar association, and you're automatically barred in that state if you do all the little other stipulations. But what makes it complicated is that for the bar exam itself, every state has their own standard score.
oh.
So
So if
what that
your score
means,
doesn't match that state, you have to take it again in that state, right?
you have to take it again in general,
Ah,
and it has to be high enough. Or you consistently have a legal career for 5 years,
ooh.
practicing either as an attorney or in a legal adjacent field. It can be kind of like fuzzy, and in reality, you can really finagle it if you want to.
Ah.
For minimum of 5 years, some places have less, some places have more, but the general one is around 5 years.
Fun.
So, like, worst comes to worst, if I get the lowest passing score, which is a 260, I'm just gonna move out to North Dakota for 5 years because they're the only ones that accept it that low.
Oh god.
And I'm not doing that.
I imagine
I'd
you-
rather
That's
just
because
take it
there's
again.
literally no one out there, so there's no way for you to mess it up.
Yeah. That being said, I'd rather just take it again.
Yeah.
So like that's kind of. So it all depends on what. That's what I mean by it. It all depends on what you want to do with it. So like theoretically, it's like I took it in New York, right? So yeah. Chunk error.
Chunk error.
I took it in New York, which has a 267, which is pretty high comparatively. The highest is 270, which is Massachusetts. So like theoretically, like it's like okay, I got like a 267, and I want to move back to Massachusetts. It's like okay, I can't practice as an attorney there, but if I do legal adjacent work there for 5 years, I can do it. Or if I practice as an attorney in New York for 5 years. Basically, it's like, have you been working in law for about 5 years? Sure, now you can be barred.
The maximum
So,
score
yeah.
for the bar is what, like
400.
400.
400. So, what that puts into perspective is like, you don't need to get an A. You need basically a C in it. But getting that C is a lot of work because the pass rate is only about, depending on the state, like 40% on average.
Yikes.
Yeah, it's a bitch and a half. Anyway, that's my struggles.
Bro, you need a 60%. Just about.
Just
To
about.
practice in Massachusetts.
Yep, they're the highest.
Because they're probably because they're Harvard.
It's so arbitrary also because there's a written portion that's graded on a scale of 0 to 5 and then run through an algorithm. Because there's the bar is curved nationally. So there is an arbitrariness, and you can petition if you want to. If you get like a 269 and you're in Massachusetts, you can petition to be like, hey, can we have one of your graders like look at this to bump up by 3 to a 4? and then that would get you over the threshold. So there's some finagling in it.
Fun.
If you really want to. But it's a pain in the ass and behind a ton of red tape. So.
Well.
Anyway. Yeah.
As a side note, Mike, have you seen the short that I sent you?
Yes.
It's very good.
Yes. I did find it funny. He was like, bite him. I don't know. You can't bite in the UFC, but there was an incident last week. The first full-on bite incident in like 20 years.
That is, in fact, part of why I sent it to you.
Yeah.
It just popped up in my feed. It was like, oh, hey, that happened.
Yeah. Can't remember what fighter it was, but he got a tattoo of where the bite mark was.
Nice.
And I'm like, I respect the hell out of you for that. That's hilarious.
It's like, I was a victim, but it was funny.
Yeah. So he won on DQ, which is never a good way to win.
Oh, absolutely not.
But at the same time,
because his opponent bit him.
yeah. Well, also he was gonna win that fight anyway. Can't remember which fighter it was. Let me double check.
Which is why his opponent bit
Dude,
him.
I remember the dude's face. I'm so bad with names.
The fighter that. Wow, you know what's so funny? I put in UFC fighter, and the first thing that comes up is bites opponent.
Yup. There you go.
Oh yeah, it was Andre Lima who was bit by Igor Severino.
That is such an I'm gonna bite you name. I'm sorry. I get in the ring with that dude. I expect something to go down.
Yeah. Also, his contract was suspended. He's out. Which,
Yeah, no, I'm not surprised.
For
That, like-
flagrant biting violations.
So, there are times where even if you get DQ, there's no guarantee that you're going to get your contract's going to get suspended. But I believe biting is extraneous circumstances where they have every right to terminate because you flagrant. That is a flagrant.
Bro.
Bit that man.
Bro,
Eye gouges.
you
eye
took
gouges
a
happen on
bite
accident.
out of him.
Yeah. Like,
You're getting fired.
You look at the picture. Like it was it wasn't like an accidental like because sometimes that can happen. Like where your teeth
Like,
Your
I
teeth
did
press-
not accidentally tooth into your fist or something like that. I took a chunk out of you.
Well, in grappling, you see it all the time of like people having like teeth marks, but not from a bite, but because you were like pressing up against their mouth.
Right.
And that happens. Like, but the fact is like there are certain ones where a DQ is within the realm of expectation. Things like poking somebody in the eye, a crotch shot.
Right.
A lot of those, in fact, a lot of those aren't even DQs. A lot of times, it's just they call a timeout and give like a certain amount of time to recover.
Yeah.
Instant DQ is a bit. Sometimes there are ones where they might suspend your contract, but not but not fully terminate it. So that would be something like a big one was like if they find that you did something intentional, like an intentional eye gouge, or something of that nature, or a famous one was Aljamain Sterling became champ after a very unfortunate DQ where it was like I can't remember what it was. I think it was like an opponent fish hooked him. You know what fish hooking is?
What that means, no.
You put your finger in their mouth and basically yank them by the cheek.
Yeah.
No.
Ouch.
Put your hands in that man's mouth.
Oh God.
That, admittedly, that is
Really funny.
of the many reasons that I got out of fighting people as a hobby. I have learned that one of my base instincts that I have a very
It's to
difficult
bite.
time controlling is just to bite people.
Yeah.
Like, I can physically restrain myself from doing that, but I also understand that under stress, if someone grapples me and has a hand in my mouth, I'm gonna bite them. That's just how this is gonna go.
The feral
it's a problem.
Bite, chomp, chomp.
I mean, we all call you a cat.
Okay, we joke about me being a cat. I have a bite history. I've won multiple fights by biting people.
Oh, I know.
If it works.
There was a reason
One
you
of them was
weren't
him.
bullied. There was a reason you weren't bullied when we were kids.
Although you would be bullied nowadays for being a furry, if you bit
Yeah, I
people.
would. I know. No, there was of the 3 genuine serious fights I have ever been in and won. I won 2 of them by biting my opponent. That's just how that goes. I don't know why. I don't know why I ended up in those situations. I don't remember them super clearly. I remember one, there was a hand in my mouth, so I bit. And I remember the other one, I think the dude was trying to punch me, missed, and I bit his arm because it was just like in front of my face.
You, my friend, are very biteable.
Yeah, and it's there. You're not wearing a long sleeve shirt. That's your mistake.
Should have just been less biteable if you didn't want to
Right.
get bitten.
Actually, the funny part is, 2 of those fights were against the same person. So one of them, I bit him, and then the third one, I put his head through a wall, and that's when he stopped trying to fight me.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Like, the bite just made him angrier, but chucking him through a wall, apparently that stopped him from trying to fight me.
Should have learned the first time, kiddo.
You know,
As a avid high school schoolyard fighter, what I'll say is that a lot of times, like, it's not the kid that's necessarily like better at fighting or bigger and stronger. It's the kid that's who's willing to go further. Because, like, I don't know what the situation with yours was, like what the context was, but generally speaking, like, schoolyard fights have these like unspoken rules that exist. It's like, how far are you willing to go? You know what I mean?
yeah.
So it's
I
usually
did
the kid
not
that
go to
wins.
public schools, so I have not experienced that.
It's a really weird thing to think about, where it's like, oh, you know, there's no rules in a street fight. But what about because with schoolyard fights, it's like, okay, am I really willing to like gouge my finger into this kid's eye over like some stupid argument? And it's
Over a
usually
goddamn true roller.
Usually the kid that wins is the kid who's willing to forego those rules.
Right.
It's like,
I never experienced those rules. All of my fights were at church, ironically.